I'm Annie Sloan.
And I'm Tristan Merriam.
And this is The Colourist,
a podcast all about colour and its influence on our lives. Now, I'd like to start things slightly differently this week, if that's okay with you, Annie. You don't know what I'm going to say.
No.
It's nothing bad. Last night, I asked my 11-year-old son what words he associates with emperor. He said older times, leadership, ruler, Japan and China and different cultures, civilized, strict, strong, skilled, brave and strategic. I then did the same with silk. I think you know where we're going with this. Mm. He replied, fabric, soft, clothes, high-end, wealthy, smooth, and luxurious. Mm. So put these two words together and we have Emperor's Silk, which of course is one of your chalk paint colours. And I think that these words are the perfect introduction to today's episode. But we have much more to share about its origins and your inspiration for creating this colour. So start by telling us a little bit about this beautiful colour.
For a start, it is just a red. I mean, it is a beautiful, beautiful red. It's slightly sort of to the orange side. It's and where it comes from initially, and that's why it's the colour it is. It's that pigment is cinnabar or vermilion. Both words are used. And I was inspired to make it because, you know, I was always looking at painted furniture and that's where my colours came from. And this comes from those incredible 18th century pieces of furniture, often cabinets with doors on them or small chests, mainly sort of desks and bureaus. Mm-hmm. And they would be a beautiful, beautiful red, and they would have Chinese figures all over them. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make that red because I want to be able to make one for myself. Because I think, well, yeah.
Yeah,
you
of course.
One?
Yeah, you run your own paint business.
Yeah.
You've got to do what you want.
You want to make your own red painted furniture. Because those pieces are very, very expensive. The really, really good ones are very expensive. And I mean, you couldn't buy one. I mean, they're in sort of, you know, they're
museum type.
They're proper museums.
Elite.
You know, in England, you can see them in grand houses, or the Victoria and Albert Museum, or the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and all great museums will have them. Mm-hmm. I always seem to find them.
So I think a lot of people will have heard of, you know, Chinese lacquered furniture or whatever it's called, however people call it, rather. So let's talk a little bit about what that process involved. Why were they so expensive? Is it because they're so old and they're, you know, they took a long time to hand paint and they're very intricate, or is it something different?
It's all of those things. So what happened was that the original stuff, the lacquer work, that was a very, very long process using very toxic materials that were layers and layers and layers of a sort of shellac with pigment in it. And it took forever, and also it was extremely dangerous and poisonous.
Great, so it was a risk to use it.
Yeah, but that was all done in China. Uh-huh. And they were very expensive when they came here. I mean, you see now stuff which is called lacquerware. Unless it's really old, it won't be like that. But the very, very old stuff, yeah, it will be.
And tell me about the process. So presumably it wasn't a colour and then a lacquer as we know it, like a top coat on top. The pigment was in this product, this lacquer, and it was built up layer upon layer.
Yes, and they would, apparently, they would have to go out in a boat to lay it down because you would be on the boat and there'd be no dust around.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh, so a bit like applying resin or something where the slightest little bit of dust getting in the way can really spoil it.
So it was the pigment, the red pigment, which was made of a sort of mercury and sulfur. And quite dangerous, as well as the resin itself. The resin came from a tree, which is very toxic. So everything, I think it was mainly the resin, incredibly
And when was this discovered? How long ago are we talking?
This we're talking before, 8th century China.
Yes, that's what I had. 8th century. Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
Really, really long time ago.
So they presumably might not have known the dangers of these ingredients at the time, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. They probably realised, people died earlier anyway in those days. I don't know. No, I think they might have known that it was toxic, but life was different. I don't know.
Absolutely. And there's also, it's quite confusing because this process is sometimes called Japanning.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened...
Which is confusing for...
But what happened is that because you couldn't... The Europeans could see when they were bringing it to England, or to Europe rather, this is a beautiful, beautiful... technique and the colours, which I'll talk about the colours separately. There's two things going on here. There's the colour, but there's also the idea of this lacquer work.
Yes.
So when the trade routes were all opened up and there was lots of stuff coming from China to Britain and to Europe, actually, everywhere, everyone was really interested in this work. And also at the same time, the Chinese figure ideas were coming. So they would see it on pottery and various other things.
And on the furniture?
Not at this point.
Oh, okay.
So at first it was just red lacquer, and separately to these little imagery things of little people with pagodas and bridges, the whole sort of all of that on various things, I suppose, at that point. So you would get Chinese ware, Chinese porcelain. This became very, very, very popular, and so everybody wanted it, but the British, or I keep saying British, the European market couldn't keep up with the supplies. There were so many people wanted it, but it wasn't coming enough. And also they began to think, actually, you could have the two things, this beautiful red piece of furniture, and you could have images on it. So they started to do it in Europe. So they found a pigment and paint and a lacquer. And because I think there was a lot of ignorance what Japan was and China was, I think they decided to call it Japanning. So Japanning became what this red lacquer, or type of lacquer, paint, shiny, was with Chinese figures on it.
Oh gosh, okay. So that's clarified it perfectly.
And then to make it worse, of course, Japanning had chinoiserie, China.
It's just too muddled. I think ignorance is absolutely the right way of putting it.
They probably hadn't seen really a map, and they just knew that it all came from somewhere in the East.
So when we see the pieces of furniture with those sorts of scenes and figures on, that was kind of invented as a byproduct of the original pieces. But then did China start producing these because there was a demand for them?
I think sometimes, yes, they did. But that might have been later. The initial stuff was European from about the 17th and really strongly in the 18th century. So you've got some beautiful pieces that were painted in Spain, for instance, that were beautiful reds with lovely Chinese figures on them, and lots into the rest of Europe as well. But for some reason, I've seen more Spanish pieces, and which may be to do with trade routes, I don't know, and British pieces.
So it'd be very hard today to work out where they came from, because they'll all have a similar kind of look. Obviously, some experts would be able to.
No, I do think the Spanish pieces are quite a little bit wilder, a little bit more free. The British pieces were not so. There is a fascinating... So they got really interested in chinoiserie, and there's a fascinating book called The Art of Japanning. I first came across this book, it's in the Bodleian, and it is really an extraordinary book filled with images of how to do the Japanning. Not so much that, more how to do these imageries, this Chinese image.
Yes.
So it's a treatise of Japanning and varnishing.
And it's 1688.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got it here. So this I've never heard of the word treatise. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Treatise, yeah. Uneducated, terrible riffraff we get on here. But this is basically a how-to.
Yes.
And it was in 1688, and the idea was it sort of gives you lots of designs that then you can copy.
Yes.
You literally replicate those designs by hand painting them.
Yes.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. It says, the best way of making all arts and varnishing for Japan work, painting or pictures, the method of gilding and burnishing and lacquering. And so it goes on, but tortoiseshelling, marble, all of this stuff, and it's all about Japan work. And then it really makes it even more difficult because it says, brings in India as well.
Yes. Just to really complicate Japan, China and India links.
Yeah, just everywhere from the east. That's it, basically. Very huge confusion. But the pictures in this book are fabulous. Yeah. And actually not secretly, many years ago, I tried to do something. I wanted to reprint this book because I think it's beautiful. I'd like to have done a facsimile edition. And, well, I was in talks with them, but it all came to nothing.
Oh, there's still time. We can do it.
We'll
Maybe after this podcast.
Yeah.
So there's lots to talk about in this episode, and we're obviously going to be really talking about red, but we're sort of going off. I'm really interested in this lacquering. And so if we're thinking about the imagery, presumably is that done first and then the lacquering process on top?
No, it's all lacquered, I think. It's all lacquered. So they paint, and then the imagery goes on top, and sometimes they even raise it.
Right.
So it's like little figures which have got raised little person, and then they've often with gold on them, gold work and often black.
So red was the most popular colour for this type of furniture. There are other Chinese lacquered colours, but red, which is what we're here to talk about, is the one that was probably the original, I suppose. That was the pigment that was used.
Well,
initially.
Red came originally because that's what they were using in China. Red in China is meaning is success and good luck, fortune, all of the good things.
Well, it is a colour you associate with China, isn't it? You know, Chinese New Year, weddings, celebrations.
Yeah.
And we've got written here it represents joy, prosperity, and wards off evil spirits. Yeah. So it is their colour. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. When I was in China, I saw a wedding.
Hey.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Was it red?
They are in red. I mean, they just were so sweet. They have these pre-wedding photographs, and they were in pure. I mean, it seems extraordinary because in England you'd think, well, you wouldn't wear red.
Yeah,
that's the last colour you'd wear.
Yes, isn't it?
But they're
funny?
all in beautiful embroidered costumes. I'll put a picture up on the page. Looking amazing.
And do you thinking of the furniture then, the lacquered furniture? Obviously, red is very symbolic, and they love red and what it stands for. Do you think that the furniture was used in their homes to kind of inject some positive energy into their home environment?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you see, there's red temples. Anything that you want to have good is red. They don't. I mean, typical Chinese room would not have a lot of furniture in it, but it would have things like chests and certain types of chairs and what have you. But yes, red it's the colour.
It's everywhere, and it's a very strong red. So thinking about this pigment, and we touched on it earlier with cinnabar. Yeah. How is this so strong? Because it is such a vivid red.
Well, it is mercuric sulfide. That's all I can say. And it is a very, very strong red. And it was synthesized in, I think in the 8th century to make it into the red pigment. Since then, now we have, and it was called vermilion. And we have that colour now as a vermilion in our palette.
Yeah, a very true red.
It's a
the
very
red.
true red, yeah. Well, I always think it's slightly to the orange.
Oh, okay.
That's me. But, this is, although I've talked about it as being Emperor's Silk, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
We haven't said that
No.
yet. Why did I call it Emperor's Silk? Actually, it was used other places. So if you go to Pompeii, there was red walls, and that was... it was vermilion or mercuric sulfide. So it's been everywhere.
Yeah, so fascinating.
Probably it might have been more expensive, or I don't know quite.
Because of the process getting it.
And whether it was more available. I mean, the fact that it was so used in China suggests to me that they could get lots and lots of it. Presumably that was, yeah. Anyway,
Emperor's Silk.
Yes,
we've sort of gone around this, but I think it's led on to this really nicely. That is one of your reds in your chalk paint range.
Yeah.
How did the name Emperor's Silk come about?
Well, the colour of the emperors is red. Now, it doesn't mean that the actual emperor wears red. Actually, they often wear yellow. But it's the emperor's colour. So all the emperors wore red. So
surprise.
Yes.
Everything's red.
So the main emperor, but red is, and I just thought, what a great name. And they wear silk.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, it just seemed to me, I didn't want to call it lacquer because that would confuse it. If I'd call it lacquer red, people would be like, oh, it's going to, anyway, I didn't. And I just wanted a nod to China, as well as the whole sort of the way it's thought of as very a high colour.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an important colour.
Mm-hmm.
I think we tend to think of red as a bit of a child's colour, and I think red is an amazing colour. You'll know that I have big red cupboards in my garden room, and I find them they don't look childish at all.
Absolutely. Well, going back to what I said at the beginning with my son, I mean, I said emperor, and then silk. So he doesn't know that that's your red, and despite the fact he probably hears me talking about it, he doesn't. And high end, luxurious.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he thinks
civilized.
Because I think that emperors, yes, he doesn't. It's not red.
No, but the luxurious was the
exactly.
silk.
That's what I was trying to. Yeah, well, I'm glad it worked.
I know, it definitely. It's a very rich, luxurious, strong colour, and I think that's exactly what you wanted it to be.
I did. Yeah.
Had you visited China at the time of bringing Emperor's Silk out?
No, I did that in much earlier. But I'm a bit of a nerd about studying
the Bodleian and the
Bodleian, and I looked at a lot of stuff. Yeah, I went to China in about, I went to see my son who was working there in Beijing, and we did a lot of touring and saw lots of stuff. And so went to the Forbidden City, which of course has got lots of red. And I visited temples, and it's all wonderful.
And how is it seeing so much red? I mean, is that... for your eyes, the experience of being surrounded by so much red?
Well, you're not, of course, because you see a palace or a forbidden city and it's in among other colours, often black. There's a lot of black they use with it. So, and there are other colours around. I mean, for the whole of the East, it's not, I'm talking about China all the time, but in fact, I've seen it in lots of other colours, and we've actually just got a new country we've added to our country is Mongolia. And if you look at Mongolian art and architecture, they use an incredible amount of red as well, and with it some blues and greens. So although the red is there, it's always tempered by other colours. I'm just looking at a picture here of a temple, and it's got blues and greens as well as huge great red fabulous pillars. And I've been to Japan as well, which is, again, has lots and lots of red temples, but it is sort of with other things.
So it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Don't feel overwhelmed
because it can be red, I think, can be quite a scary colour for people to use in their
Yes.
homes.
Yeah.
And I know there's many, many variations of red that we've spoken about previously. There's the
Yeah.
earthy reds, there's
Yeah.
the orangey reds, but this red is very red. It's a strong colour. So how would you suggest people could use this colour effectively?
Well, I've got my red cupboard there, and if you go into my dining room, it's not a very high ceilinged room. In fact, it's very low ceiling, but my walls are red. So I painted them with emperor's silk and then waxed them. And I think they are utterly gorgeous. I mean, I love them. It doesn't show off well in that room because the ceiling is low rather, and so.
But you'd think going into a room that's painted red, it's going to be quite overwhelming. And actually, it's not at all when you go into that room. It doesn't jump out at you. And
there's quite a lot of white in the room, and there's it's just tempered by lots of things. And actually, there aren't a lot of wall. There's not that much wall. But I've always wanted, what I would like is a big room. Oh, I could do it in here. I could do the red room in here. I love a red room. I think it's just beautiful. And, it has been used in many, often large houses. But, people have asked me, one of the questions we've been getting is, but how do you have a bright colour or a strong colour in a room which doesn't have high ceilings? It really isn't a problem because you don't, I mean, I have lots of pictures on the walls and that's what you have. And you'd have also red things in the room. You don't just have red walls, you've got to have red things.
Tie it all together with accents.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. Maybe we need to show this somehow. I don't know. We need to prove it. Find a small room, paint it, and dress it, and show how it is very accessible for people.
Really lovely, yeah.
Any volunteers? We'll come round. Be like DIY or SOS, but this edition.
Dining rooms are often bright red.
Yes. I wonder why that is then.
It's because of the light. It makes you look lovely. You get
on an evening.
In an evening, you get the warm air, Probably wouldn't be right for a breakfast if you had a breakfast room.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah,
could be very ghostly.
But if it's a room that you mainly use at night, I mean, yeah, it's going to look gorgeous.
And you've touched upon the fact that this has got orange, or it's more towards the orange side. Do you mean your colour, Emperor Silk, or the colour we're talking about with the Chinese lacquer?
Well, the Chinese lacquer, actually, you can see it's everything. It goes from a little bit deeper to, I suppose it's something to do with the actual pigment that you use. And if you look at the old pieces, I think really fascinating, you'll often find that they're photographed with their doors closed and their doors open. And it's because the doors closed, the colour is faded very slightly and it's turned slightly more browny orange.
On the outside?
On the outside,
because of the light, And
then you open it up and it's still got its bright red jacket on. Inside the jacket.
Yeah. I'm looking at a photo now and it is like someone's just sort of opening up their arms to show the inside.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Or a waistcoat,
And of course we haven't really mentioned how much gold is this as well. What are you going to say there?
Yeah, I mean, gold and red. Wow. It's a very striking combination.
We were talking when we did our gold and silver. Now I've just got a piece here. And that you don't mix gold and silver. Well, I've got a piece here which I will put on my pictures, which is red lacquer with gold and black, and then all the silver, all the
hinges,
and the top, they're all in silver.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too, and it works beautifully.
It just does work incredibly well. What it's done is separate out, I suppose, what the lacquer work is and what the silver, the metal work is, and the legs are all in gold as well. So
so if someone wanted to experiment with, not the traditional way of Chinese lacquer, but if they wanted to kind of replicate this look, what sort of piece of furniture would you recommend? Because I don't think it would work on many types of furniture.
Well, if you look at the sort of furniture there are, they tend to be either a bureau type thing. An 18th century bureau would be absolutely, I mean, when I say I don't mean you take an 18th century bureau.
Yes, cover it up.
There are loads and loads of reproductions.
Just like the bomb type shape.
The bomb type,
chests.
yeah. Or the pieces which you've got, they're tall with a big, heavy, not necessarily heavy, but a big top part to it.
Mm-hmm. Like a drinks cabinet with the dainty kind of legs.
Yeah, that sort of thing would be good.
Yeah.
And
or at the other end of the spectrum, I suppose there's the really basic boxy boxes.
Yeah.
For chests. I suppose, which are literally plain, like a cube.
Like a cube. I've got some pieces that we get in like eBay and Facebook Marketplace, and you often get them. They often got a circle in the front.
That's what makes it have that look, isn't it?
And it really does. It just goes Japan.
Yes.
And they're often
with a little latch.
I
don't know if that's maybe a tassel.
On
the latch.
Yeah.
But I suppose, if you couldn't find a piece with that, you could quite easily replicate that circle.
Yeah.
Through gilding or through painting. You could have a go with it. But how would you achieve that look? Obviously, use Emperor's Silk chalk paint.
Yes.
And then how would you give it that lacquered look?
Well, if you just want the lacquer without any of the imagery, the Chinese imagery, chinoiserie, if you don't want the chinoiserie, I would just paint it. If you want it to be very smooth, I would paint it several times and then do it as smooth as you can. But for that really, really smooth, then sand it with fine sandpaper. And then you could either wax it and polish it, which I think is probably preferable, but you could also lacquer it with our lacquer.
The gloss.
The gloss one. And that would also give you that glossy look.
Sorry, go on.
It's not very glossy. It's glossy gloss, but not gloss.
Because I was going to say, these photos... it's very hard to tell from a photo how shiny they are in real life. And there's a difference, isn't there, between gloss lacquer, which is all over shine, high shine, to buffed wax, which is a beautiful sheen. And it can be quite shiny if you really, really, really buff it. But I don't know what's most accurate.
I personally think people think and want it to be very, 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 very shiny. And modern lacquerware that you see in, new stuff is very, very, very shiny. And so people perhaps confuse because they spray it on and all the rest of it. But, I always go back to the original stuff. And if you see the stuff in the museums, you will see that it's got a shine to it. But like a mellow shine.
Yeah, which is where the buffed wax would be more fitting.
Yeah. It's a difference between silk and nylon. Nylon can be very, very, or satin, and that's a very, very shiny. Mm-hmm. I said satin, but that sort of, but real silk is not shiny. Anyway,
it's a classy shine. Yeah. It's got that sort of elegance to it, hasn't it?
Absolutely, I think so. And whether you put the gold with it or not is another thing. That requires quite a lot of time. And I'm sure there are some various things if you can't paint it. But there are a lot of things around that you could actually copy or trace and put onto it.
Yes.
Because you've probably got Chinese things, chinoiserie in your room. I'm just looking down and I'd completely forgotten. I've got a waste paper bin down there, which is chinoiserie. It's tin.
And what does chinoiserie mean? Tell us what that word actually means.
From China.
From China.
Shin.
So it's just inspired imagery from China.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's one of those words people will go, oh yeah, chinoiserie. What does it mean? I don't know.
Well, it's anything that came from China.
Great,
so
okay.
I've got a bird design stencil, which is called chinoiserie, and that is from some Chinese painting.
But
And
you
I-
could do trees, birds, temples, little scenes.
yeah,
It's not so much pattern, it is quite illustrative, isn't it?
yeah. So I've got other things here. I've got a little tray here with, I mean, these are all junk shop finds, and it's got pearl bits on it.
Oh, like an inlay.
It's sort of an
A
inlay.
chinoiserie inlay.
But they're sort of, what would you call those? They're silhouettes, aren't
Yes. But again, quite illustrative. It's
Yeah.
figures and it's trees, almost like a lakes type setting, banks
Cut
of a
out.
river.
they? Yeah.
That's
yeah.
great.
I love this. Bit broken. It's got some bits missing, but I still absolutely love it.
What I love about that is it's combined the chinoiserie feel, but it's got this strong border, which is very pattern
Yes,
heavy with the
pattern
triangles,
heavy,
which I
yeah.
love.
And I've also got next to me is this. I love this chair so much. I'm going to put this all on the page, on my page, if I can. And this chair is papier-mâché. I know
Pardon?
that is bizarre. It's
What?
papier-mâché.
Wait a second. Vincent and I looking at you like
The frame is probably not.
okay.
But over it is all papier-mâché.
Wow.
I know. I don't know how they
How?
did this. It was machine made, but it's early, I suppose it's 1820, something like that.
Wow.
And I mean, you couldn't, I don't think I'd ever, if anybody sat in it, it would probably be a goner.
Okay.
But it's black and there's a sort of a bit of a shine to it and it's got gold on it. I'm just going to move it round so you're going to be a bit
Ignore
of
the scrape.
scrapey.
So
sound.
wait there, let's just go back to the paper mache thing.
Yeah,
I've never
that's
heard
not
of
what-
this. Especially for people listening who can't see this right now potentially, what is the actual detail paper mache?
No, the black chair is papier-mâché. There's loads and loads of trays, which are also papier-mâché.
So it's not wood, it's paper mache.
Yes, but I think maybe the frame and
Yeah.
they built on it.
I see, to get the
To-
carving
and
and the
then they-
detail.
Yeah,
Right. Wow, this is a whole new thing I'd like to
Yeah.
explore.
most people don't know it, but I was. Well, I might be done. I was sold it by an antique dealer who said it wasn't it was in a junk shop, but he was an antique dealer.
Oh, I'm sure. Gotta
But
believe.
I've got another piece upstairs which is papier-mâché, and it broke unfortunately, and you can see it's cardboard underneath. I mean it's
How interesting.
paper.
I'm going to research this.
Um,
What I like about this chair is it's using the colours we've been speaking about, red, gold, black. However, it's in reverse. The main body is black, but then with accents of red and gold on top, which is quite a nice way to do it.
Yeah. Well, lots of black stuff, black lacquer and green lacquer as well, which I think is fascinating. Sort of olivey green, which is rather gorgeous. And actually, my father loved it, and my house was full of stuff. I gave it all to my brother, but it was all lots of black. I actually hated it as a child.
Yeah, well, I suppose.
Well, partly because I've just got used to it, and it wasn't the best stuff. It was made in Macau, and it's not quite such high quality, I think. I mean, the 18th century stuff an early 19th century is about 1 billion times better.
Okay.
And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a little cup and saucer,
Little
which is
teacup.
Hilditch, which I love. It's not to do with the red lacquer, but to do with the imagery of chinoiserie imagery. And Hilditch is very easily bought. I mean, they're still, not very expensive. I did a nice article about them in the Colourist magazine. And these are little figures. I mean, aren't they gorgeous?
This tiny little teacup and saucer, hugely inspiring. If you wanted to, take inspiration from some imagery, that would be the perfect thing to do because you could take aspects from so much of that.
Yeah. So it's all hand painted. There was actually what they did is they made a print of the outline, and then someone came in and coloured it quite often. I think they're both like that. Yes, yeah. Fascinating, isn't it?
And let's just sort of draw things to a close by talking about your geeky, wonderful knowledge of the colour wheel and red. So if people wanted to, we've said about black and gold, which other colours work very well with this type of red, this bright red?
Well, again, going back to the Chinese stuff and to Mongolian stuff and Japanese stuff, it's often worked with actually a colour which is not dissimilar to Florence, and a colour which is actually quite a little bit more like Frida blue, quite a slightly purpley blue, and those three colours, which is quite extraordinary, but very, very rich. And of course, lots and lots of black with it as well. And the gold, of course, is yellowy. And I mean, that's how I think it's gorgeous. I've actually got a similar thing in my garden room. The garden room is black walls or graphite walls. And then I've got red. I've only just realised that actually. And then I've got a red, the cupboard. And it's got gold bits on it.
So the black is the idea. It kind of grounds this brighter colour and just balances the room in terms of the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, black and gold, I think, is fabulous.
And what if you put green, bright green with Emperor's Silk? Would that give you too much Christmas?
Bright green. Well, as I say, it's technically right. And if you look at those old buildings, they did have them. But it wouldn't be very much, just a touch of it.
It's knowing how much.
It's
the key, isn't it?
I think it's with the black you could do it.
Yes.
And that's, I've always said you need a neutral. So that is your neutral.
And would you think in percentages, I don't know, 70% black, 20% red, 10% accent colours like green, gold?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe people would like to follow a rule.
Yeah.
I'm not like that.
Oh, God. Lots of red and quite a lot of black and then tiny bit. So maybe 30, maybe
there is
30,
a rule, isn't there? I'm not imagining that. But
sure.
No, let's not go down ratios.
Can't do that.
Is there anything you'd like to say that we have not covered?
I just want, if you want any questions, I mean, there's so much I could have done and talked about where to see them and all the rest of it. Ask questions, please. I hope I've covered everything. The minute I think of something, I think, I should have mentioned that. Too much to mention.
No, it's been fascinating. I think this colour is brilliant. And I love the name of it. I love the inspiration of it. And I love seeing it being used. It's wonderful.
So watch out on my Instagram, which is Annie Sloan Instagram. I do put pictures up. So do watch them.
And especially the paper mache chair. We all want to see that now. You can't not show this paper mache chair.
Okay.
Awesome. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.